Woke waitress fed a homeless man and got fired. 30 minutes later, Clint Eastwood arrived. The January wind whistled through the narrow streets of the charming coastal city, where strings of warm lights twinkled against the gathering dusk. Inside the small restaurant, the young waitress moved gracefully between tables, her uniform neat and pressed as she balanced plates of steaming comfort food. Her genuine warmth and attentive service had earned her the loyalty of regular customers who appreciated how she anticipated their needs before they could voice them. The restaurant's interior provided a welcome refuge from the chilly evening, with its amber lighting and the gentle clinking of cutlery, creating an intimate atmosphere. The aroma of home-cooked meals wafted from the kitchen, mingling with the sound of quiet conversations and the soft murmur of diners enjoying their evening. That evening began like any other, with the waitress attending to her regular customers, elderly couples sharing quiet conversations, young professionals seeking warmth from the cold, and families gathering for dinner. However, everything changed when a homeless man in worn-out clothes hesitantly pushed open the door. The man's weathered face and trembling hands told a story of hardship, but it was his eyes that caught the waitress's attention. They held a dignity that transcended his circumstances. While other customers shifted uncomfortably in their seats, she approached him with the same warm smile she offered to everyone who entered the restaurant. "Would you like to sit down, sir?" "It's quite cold outside," she said softly, gesturing to a cozy corner table near the heater. The man nodded almost imperceptibly, his shoulders relaxing slightly at her kind tone. Without hesitation, she guided him to the table and disappeared into the kitchen. Minutes later, she emerged with a steaming plate of home-style food, a comforting stew with mashed potatoes and fresh vegetables. "This will warm you up," she said, placing the meal before him. The man's eyes welled with tears of gratitude. However, her act of kindness didn't go unnoticed. The restaurant manager emerged from the kitchen with storm clouds in his expression. His rigid posture and severe demeanor contrasted sharply with the warm atmosphere of the restaurant. "A word," he commanded, his voice cutting through the ambient chatter like a knife. In the back of the restaurant, the manager's words were cold and calculated. "This establishment has standards. We cannot give away free food. Your employment is terminated, effective immediately." The harsh lighting cast severe shadows across his face as he delivered his verdict. The young waitress stood there, stunned, but not broken. "Sir, I understand rules exist, but sometimes humanity must take precedence over policy," she replied, her voice steady despite the trembling in her hands. As she gathered her belongings, the restaurant door swung open once again. This time, a commanding figure entered, shaking raindrops from his dark coat. The renowned actor, known not just for his powerful performances, but also for his humanitarian work, took in the scene before him with keen interest. The actor had been planning to have a quiet dinner, but the tension in the air was palpable. He watched as the young waitress, fighting back tears, gathered her things while the homeless man at the corner table looked on with a mixture of guilt and helplessness. Approaching the counter where the manager stood reviewing paperwork, the actor cleared his throat. His presence, even in casual attire, dark coat and jeans, commanded attention. "Excuse me, but I couldn't help overhearing. Did you just fire this young woman for showing kindness to someone in need?" The manager's head snapped up, recognition flickering across his face. "This is a private business matter," he began, but the actor held up a hand. "When humanity becomes a private business matter, we've lost something essential," the actor stated, his voice carrying the weight of conviction. "Firing someone for demonstrating compassion isn't just inhumane, it's a serious mistake for any business." The other diners had fallen silent, all eyes focused on the scene unfolding before them. The waitress stood frozen, her belongings clutched to her chest, as the actor continued to address the manager with measured words that carried unmistakable weight. As the gentle rain continued to fall outside, casting soft shadows through the windows, the restaurant had become the stage for a confrontation between compassion and rigid policy. The whole establishment held its breath, waiting to see which would prevail. The tension in the restaurant continued as the renowned actor's words resonated through the quiet space. The manager shifted uncomfortably behind the counter, his earlier certainty wavering under the steady gaze of the distinguished visitor. The other diners remained silent, their meals forgotten as they watched the drama unfold. "Sir," the manager began, attempting to regain his authoritative stance, "while I respect your opinion, our policies exist for a reason. We can't simply..." "Can't simply what?" the actor interrupted, his voice gentle but firm. "Can't simply show compassion? Can't recognize that sometimes rules need to bend in service of something greater?" He gestured toward the homeless man, who was still seated at his corner table, watching the scene with wide eyes. The young waitress stood near the door, her heart racing as she witnessed this unexpected defense of her actions. The actor's presence, even in this simple seaside restaurant, carried an unmistakable air of respect and determination. His intervention had transformed what should have been a quiet evening into something extraordinary. The actor turned to address the waitress directly. "Would you join me for a walk? The rain has lightened and I think we have some things to discuss." His warm smile contrasted sharply with the manager's rigid demeanor. As they stepped out into the cool evening air, the soft rainfall created a gentle rhythm on the sidewalks. The actor shared his thoughts about the challenges life presents, emphasizing that a person's worth isn't measured by employment or arbitrary rules, but by their capacity to act with humanity and do good, even when it contradicts established regulations. "You know," he began, his voice carrying years of wisdom, "I've been watching this city change over the years. There's something special about coastal communities. They have a way of bringing people together, of fostering connection and compassion." The waitress listened intently as they walked, her earlier distress gradually giving way to curiosity. The actor continued, "I've been planning something here in the city, a project that goes beyond entertainment, something that could really make a difference in people's lives." He explained that he had been searching for people who understood the true meaning of service and compassion, individuals who could see beyond surface appearances to recognize the dignity in every human being. "What I witnessed tonight," he said, "was exactly the kind of spirit this project needs." "What kind of project?" the waitress asked, her voice barely above a whisper. The actor's eyes lit up as he began to explain his vision. "I'm establishing a community center that will combine arts, education, and social support. We'll have programs for people who need a second chance, opportunities for those who've been overlooked, and most importantly, a space where everyone is treated with dignity." As they walked through the rain-washed streets, he outlined his plans in greater detail. The center would offer job training, artistic workshops, and support services. It would be a place where people like the homeless man from the restaurant could find not just a meal, but a path forward. "What happened tonight wasn't the end of your story," the actor said, stopping to face the waitress. "If you're interested, I think you could play a vital role in this project. Your understanding of service, your natural empathy, these are exactly the qualities we need." The waitress stood silent for a moment, processing this unexpected turn of events. Just hours ago, she had lost her job for showing kindness. Now, she was being offered an opportunity to be part of something that could transform countless lives. The actor continued, "Take some time to think about it. This isn't just a job offer, it's an invitation to be part of something bigger, to help create a place where kindness isn't just allowed but celebrated." As they walked back through the quiet streets, the rain had almost stopped, and stars were beginning to peek through breaks in the clouds. The waitress felt a surge of hope rising in her chest. Perhaps losing her job wasn't an ending at all, but rather the beginning of something far more meaningful than she could have imagined. The next morning dawned bright and clear, the previous night's rain leaving the coastal city sparkling like freshly polished glass. The young waitress sat in her modest apartment, a cup of tea growing cold beside her, as she contemplated the extraordinary turn of events. The actor's business card lay on her small kitchen table, elegant and understated, yet representing a doorway to possibilities she had never imagined. Her tiny living room had become her sanctuary over the years, its walls adorned with her own artwork, sketches of set designs and dramatic scenes she had dreamed of creating during her brief time in art school. These dreams had been carefully packed away when reality demanded she focus on more immediate concerns, like helping her mother through illness, A gentle knock at her door interrupted her reverie. To her surprise, the actor stood there, casual yet commanding in his presence. "I hope you don't mind the early visit," he said with a warm smile. "I thought you might like to see what we're working with." They drove through the city in his understated car, away from the tourist areas and into a neighborhood that had seen better days. They pulled up in front of an old theater building, its Art Deco facade hinting at long-faded glory. Despite its worn appearance, there was something majestic about the structure that made the waitress's artistic heart skip a beat. "It needs work," the actor admitted, leading her through the grand entrance. "But I believe this place could become something special." His voice echoed in the vast space as they walked through the lobby, their footsteps stirring up memories of past performances and long-ago applause. The main theater space was enormous, with soaring ceilings and elaborate architectural details, partially hidden under years of neglect. But it wasn't the traditional theater setup that caught her attention. It was the actor's vision for transformation. "Here," he gestured to what had once been the orchestra pit, "we'll create a flexible space for community dining and gatherings. The stage will remain for performances, but we'll also use it for workshops and training programs." He moved through the space with purpose, pointing out areas that would become classrooms, meeting rooms, and spaces for art therapy. The young waitress found herself caught up in his enthusiasm, her artistic mind already seeing past the dust and decay to envision what could be. "The side rooms," she suggested hesitantly. "They could be converted into small workshop spaces, maybe with movable walls to accommodate different group sizes." The actor's eyes lit up at her suggestion. "Exactly the kind of thinking we need," he said. "This isn't just about creating a beautiful space. It's about creating a flexible, welcoming environment that can serve multiple purposes." As they explored further, they encountered an elderly woman meticulously cleaning the old brass fixtures in the lobby. The actor greeted her warmly, introducing her as Mrs. Chen, the building's caretaker for the past 30 years. "She's been maintaining for this place single-handedly, keeping hope alive that someone would restore it to its former glory." Mrs. Chen's eyes crinkled with wisdom as she studied the young waitress. "This building has stories in its walls," she said softly. "It was once a place where everyone in the community felt welcome, regardless of their circumstances. We need that spirit again." The actor nodded in agreement. "That's exactly what we're hoping to recreate," he explained. "But with a modern twist. We want to combine the arts with practical support, job training, education, community services, a place where creativity and compassion work together." As they continued their tour, the waitress learned more about the people already involved in the project. There was a retired chef who had volunteered to run the culinary training program, a local artist who would teach classes, and several business leaders who had pledged support for job placement programs. "What role do you see for me in all this?" she asked finally, her voice quiet but steady. The actor paused, turning to face her. "You have a unique combination of skills and qualities that we need. Your background in art and design, your experience in customer service, but most importantly, your natural ability to see the dignity in every person who crosses your path. I want you to help shape this place, not just work in it." Standing in a shaft of sunlight streaming through the dusty windows, the waitress felt something shift inside her. The previous night's crisis had opened a door she never knew existed. Here, in this old theater with its faded grandeur and unlimited potential, she could see a future where her artistic dreams and her desire to help others could finally merge into something meaningful. But as she absorbed the magnitude of the opportunity before her, a shadow of doubt crossed her mind. The responsibility felt enormous, and she couldn't help but wonder if she was truly ready for such a monumental challenge. As the days passed, the young waitress found herself increasingly drawn into the world of the community center project. Each morning, she arrived at the old theater early, working alongside volunteers and contractors who were helping to bring the actor's vision to life. Her artistic background proved invaluable as she helped make decisions about colors, layouts, and the flow of spaces. One morning, while reviewing renovation plans in the makeshift office they'd set up in the theater's former green room, She was surprised by an unexpected visitor. The homeless man from the restaurant stood in the doorway, cleaned up but still recognizable. The actor had found him and offered him not just shelter, but a chance to be part of the project. "I used to be a carpenter," the man explained, his voice stronger now, his eyes clearer. "Worked on some of the finest buildings in the city before life took a different turn." As he spoke about his craft, his hands moved with the confidence of someone who knew their trade intimately. The actor, who had quietly entered during their conversation, smiled. "Which is exactly why we need his expertise," he said. "The best way to help people isn't just to serve them. It's to give them a chance to use their skills and rebuild their dignity." But it wasn't until later that afternoon that the most surprising connection was revealed. While discussing the renovation plans, Mrs. Chen approached with an old newspaper clipping. The yellowed paper showed a photograph of a grand opening night at the theater, decades ago. In the image, a striking young dancer stood center stage. It was the waitress's mother. "I knew I recognized something in you," Mrs. Chen said softly. "Your mother was one of our most talented performers before the theater fell on hard times. She used to say this place was where dreams came true." The revelation stunned the young waitress. Her mother had never mentioned her dancing career, perhaps too painful a memory after illness had forced her to give it up. Suddenly, her connection to this place felt deeper, more personal, as if destiny itself had orchestrated her arrival here. The actor watched this scene unfold with quiet satisfaction. "Sometimes," he said, "the universe has a way of bringing things full circle. Your mother once helped make this place magical for others. Now you have the chance to do the same, but in your own way." As word spread about the project, more stories emerged from the community. The theater had once been a cornerstone of the neighborhood, hosting not just performances, but community gatherings, celebrations, and moments of collective joy. Its decline had left a void that many still felt deeply. However, not everyone welcomed the proposed changes. One afternoon, the waitress was surprised to see her former manager from the restaurant standing in the theater's lobby, engaged in what appeared to be a heated discussion with the actor. Curiosity drew her closer, and she overheard fragments of their conversation. "This project will hurt local businesses," the manager was arguing, "drawing people away from established venues, creating unfair competition." The actor's response was measured but firm. "This isn't about competition, it's about community. We're not just creating another entertainment venue. We're building a place where people can grow, learn, and find their path forward. There's room in this city for both." The manager's presence stirred uncomfortable memories, but also highlighted how much had changed in such a short time. The young waitress found herself stepping forward, no longer intimidated by her former employer's rigid demeanor. "The night you fired me," she said, her voice clear and confident, "you saw rules being broken. What I saw was a chance to help someone maintain their dignity. That's what this place is about, seeing the potential in people and situations that others might dismiss." The manager seemed taken aback by her transformation. The timid waitress he had dismissed was gone, replaced by someone who spoke with purpose and conviction. Without another word, he turned and left, but his visit had reinforced something important. They were not just renovating a building, they were challenging the status quo. Later that evening, as sunset painted the theater's facade in warm golden light, the waitress sat on the front steps with the actor, sharing thoughts about the day's events. "I never imagined losing my job would lead to something like this," she admitted. "It feels almost too perfect, like a dream." The actor smiled knowingly. "The best dreams are the ones we work to make real," he said. "But remember, this is just the beginning. The real challenge lies ahead, not just in opening these doors, but in keeping them open for everyone who needs what we're building here." 6. Months had passed since that fateful January night, and the old theater had undergone a remarkable transformation. The grand reopening was scheduled for the evening, and the young waitress stood in the restored lobby, taking in the culmination of their collective efforts. The brass fixtures gleamed warmly under the restored Art Deco lighting, and the air hummed with anticipation. The space had indeed become everything the actor had envisioned and more. The main theater area now served multiple purposes: a performance space, community dining hall, and gathering place. The workshop spaces were fully equipped for job training programs, and the art studios buzzed with creative energy. But perhaps most importantly, the building had regained its soul. Mrs. Chen appeared beside her, arranging fresh flowers in a vase. "Your mother would be proud," she said softly. "She always said this place had magic in its walls. Now I see she was right." The elderly caretaker had become a mentor, figure over the months, sharing stories about the theater's golden age and the waitress's mother's performances. The former carpenter, now the center's maintenance supervisor, was directing his team in making final adjustments to the newly installed modular staging. His eyes were clear and focused, his hands steady as they worked. He had not only rebuilt portions of the theater, but had also rebuilt his own life in the process. As the afternoon progressed, people began arriving for the grand opening celebration. Local residents, business owners, and city officials mingled with artists, students, and community members. The actor had insisted that the event be open to everyone, regardless of their social status or ability to pay. The young waitress, now the center's creative director, moved through the crowd with practiced ease, her artistic vision evident in every detail of the celebration. The skills she had honed as a waitress, anticipating needs, making people feel welcome, handling multiple tasks with grace, had proven invaluable in her new role. Suddenly, a familiar face caught her attention. Her former manager from the restaurant stood somewhat awkwardly near the entrance, holding an envelope. After a moment's hesitation, she approached him. I came to apologize," he said, before she could speak, "and to make a contribution." He handed her the envelope, which contained a significant donation to the center's food program. "Watching what you've accomplished here, it's made me reconsider many things. Rules are important, but they should serve humanity, not hinder it." The actor joined them, warmly welcoming the manager. "Sometimes," he said, "the greatest acts of kindness come from those who have learned to see the world differently." The Pamier. Three stood together, a testament to how circumstances that seem like endings can become powerful new beginnings. As evening fell, the formal program began. The actor took the stage, but instead of delivering the expected speech, he invited the young waitress to join him. "This place," he addressed the crowd, "was built on a simple act of kindness, one person choosing to see the humanity in another. Tonight, we're not just opening a building, we're opening our hearts to what's possible when we lead with compassion." The waitress looked out at the assembled crowd, her heart full. In the front row sat her mother, tears of joy streaming down her face. Though illness had ended her dancing career, she was now teaching gentle movement classes at the center, helping others find healing through art. "6 months ago," the waitress began, her voice clear and strong, "I lost a job for offering a meal to someone in need. Tonight, we're creating a place where such acts of kindness aren't just allowed, they're encouraged, where every person who walks through these doors will find not just services or programs, but dignity, respect, and opportunity." The evening concluded with a community dinner served in the main hall, where people from all walks of life sat together, sharing food and stories. The homeless man who had received that fateful meal in January now helped coordinate the center's culinary training program, teaching others the skills needed for food service careers. As the celebrations wound down, the waitress found a quiet moment alone in the theater. Standing center stage, she could feel the energy of countless dreams that had taken flight in this space, including her own. What had begun as a simple act of compassion had blossomed into something far greater than herself. The actor appeared beside her, smiling knowingly. "You know," he said, "sometimes the smallest gestures can create the biggest changes. That night in the restaurant, you didn't just offer someone a meal, you showed us all what it means to be truly human." Looking out at the empty seats, the waitress could almost see the faces of all those who would find hope and purpose within these walls. The theater had indeed come full circle, from a place where stories were performed to a place where new stories could begin. As they walked through the lobby one last time that evening, Mrs. Chen was locking up, just as she had done for 30 years. But now, instead of securing an abandoned dream, she was protecting a vibrant reality. The brass fixtures gleamed in the dimming light, and through the windows, stars twinkled over the coastal city, a reminder that sometimes the darkest moments can lead to the brightest futures.